Hey, good evening. It's really amazing to have you here. My name is Daniel. I was a professional opera singer and beatboxer, and tonight we're going to be listening to Geoff Castellucci's rendition of Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers. I loved Bill Withers' voice. I still do, and when he died in 2020, it was a heavy hit in the music scene. I think his voice is just so lovely and very smooth, and my mother used to play his music in the car, and I really just love his sound. So I'm really excited to hear Geoff's take on this classic tune, and I hope you guys are too. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Oh my god!
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
Oh my gosh, what an intro.
It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home anytime she goes away. Anytime she goes away.
Oh my gosh.
I know, yeah. I wonder this time where she's gone. I wonder if she's gonna stay. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Oh, she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away. Oh, you ought to leave a young thing alone, but ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Only darkness every day. Whoa, ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home anytime. Anytime she goes away.
Oh, dude.
Ain't no sun.
Yeah. What a cover, dude. Yeah. Man, that was a real interesting take on that kind of song. Something that I really love about the original version of this piece is that it's not like slow, but it's just got this dragged, soulful sound to it of ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home anytime she goes away. And it's just got this pull, this emotional pull to it. I really digged Geoff's version of it because there were a lot of modern elements and techniques to it. You get to hear Geoff's just wonderful range in its full array, and I love that. You get these very deep musical phrases, and then within the same musical cadence, you just get a completely different register in his voice, and he just transitions between them so wonderfully. I remember the only effect in the piece that I question are the cutoffs of You can tell that that's not, like, it is Geoff cutting it off himself, but also you can hear that it's audio engineered to have a sharper, inhuman cutoff. And I'm not quite sure I dig that part, mainly because the song feels so human. This song is dealing with personal grief and is a very human experience. So when you add technology into a song that, at least for me, makes me feel a certain level of empathy with the artist performing it, it feels a little weird. In terms of human connection, I would much rather it just be between two humans. I find that to be extraordinarily beautiful. But outside of that, I think Geoff did this arrangement with tremendous justice. I love the fact that it was very sunny outside, but Geoff's body language, his outfit with the open collar tie, sitting on the wall with his head in between his legs, kind of, man, I've definitely had my time being against the wall in that sitting formation as well. So just to feel that dichotomy between the sunshine coming in, but Geoff's body language and the fashion that he's singing, where it's just heavily melancholic and his dark aura is palpable even though the sunshine is beaming onto him. It's so interesting, and interesting in a good way, and I'm just really excited to jump into this analysis to pick it apart a little bit more. Just immediately a strong attack and pushing into the note. Not just immediately starting in the dead center of the pitch, but that push, that grind, soulful sound. Really great choice for this type of music. And just that, just these little slides in the cadences themselves, not just on the initial attack of the start of the musical phrase, but in it you can feel those slides just pulling you emotionally, and it's really good choice there. Yeah! And they're just all in sync too. I saw in the comments that when he does low notes, he has his hand, his bass claw, like I mentioned in another video. Yeah, I understand doing that, not just as like a technique thing, but just as more of a subconscious thing. I know plenty of musicians, myself included, that have certain tips and tricks that allow me to stay in the middle of the pitch or stay in a particular tempo. Because I've mentioned this in many other videos, my voice very easily drags behind tempo and my voice can very easily become flat. So I've developed a lot of little subconscious tricks that I perform physically when performing to ensure that I am on the tempo, I'm in the middle of the pitch. And to know that Geoff has his little tricks as well, just to make sure that he's keeping with the particular flow of his arrangement. I enjoy that a lot.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
And just that growth into the single piano note, really interesting there.
It's not warm when she's away.
Yeah. Oh, and just that straight tone into the vibrato. It's so good, dude.
When she's away. Sunshine.
And just that scoop into it. Yeah.
And when she's gone, and this house just ain't no.
And this not yeah. Fitting within the style. Nice.
Home anytime she goes away.
Yeah. even though he was using bright vowels in the beginning and is going to use them throughout the entirety of the piece, not every vowel is going to be bright. And way here is a great example, because when you're holding on to way, you could easily just make that bright of way. But instead he's holding on to that epsilon, that eh. Anytime she goes away. Yeah.
Anytime she goes away.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah, and he's not leaning into that bass note. He's just resting on it. Anytime. Not anytime, but anytime. My voice can't go as low as his, which is why I'm not doing it in his octave. But yeah, it's wonderful.
Anytime she goes away.
Yeah, in terms of the actual music and the way the notes are written and the way that he approaches it, I really, really love that. I think the music itself is very well arranged. It's just that it doesn't feel human to me, if that makes sense. Like, I hear Geoff's voice, obviously, but to hear those too crisp of a cutoff for the human voice to achieve, it's a little jarring to me when I'm really trying to connect with the artist in this real human experience. But that being said, I understand what they're going for in terms of that effect, so I'm not gonna hold it against him or anything. I appreciate what it is that he's trying to do there. Just ultimately, it's not something that I would prefer in this kind of music, especially soul music. Just, yeah, just the way he approaches slides and that kind of bass-like hum. Oh, it's so good, dude.
I know.
Oh, and those hums in the background while he's doing those. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder this time where she's gone. I wonder if she's...
Man, I love it when he sings up here. Like, I love his bass register, obviously, but when he's really vibing in his own voice, and you can just feel that emotional tug as he's in that register, it's really, really good. I really just dig this.
She's gonna stay.
Gone. Like 3 different vowels on gone. It's so much fun to play with these types of vowels when the word itself is one vowel, gone. It's not gow. But when you have a little bit more liberty to play with the notes and to add a little bit more of musical runs throughout just a single word, to take a little bit more liberty in how you approach that is quite a admirable stylistic choice. Just the transition from that higher register into an immediate bass, just so close together, not just within the same musical cadence, but that close together. It takes incredible skill.
Oh, she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away.
That was good. I just love the way he grooves into that. Anytime. Goosebumps, dude.
I know.
Yeah, I repeat this constantly. When you have repeating words or phrases, you typically need to do something different with it in order to actually allow it to grow. But in this particular song, it's more like he's just conversing with himself. I know, kind of thing. And when you have just little differences like, I know, and just resuming back into that consistency without that kind of growth. Between the first I knows and these I knows, these are 2 different I knows. just a little bit different in the notes, a little bit different in the way that he's approaching them. And even within the I knows, there's still minor differences that he's adding in, because typically when you're, at least in my experience, when I have conversations mentally with myself, just trying to determine the best course of action about something, or if I'm trying to reflect on a particular issue and I need to understand what it is from a pragmatic lens, but I also need to understand it from an emotional lens as well, and ask myself, is this something in alignment with my values, my virtues, my principles, ethics, etc. So when I have those types of conversations and I repeat something, it very much feels like this, I know, and you're just kind of flowing into that, saying, okay, well, how do I feel about this? I feel this way. Okay, great. I feel this way. So how am I going to utilize this energy? Okay, so I'm going to utilize this energy in this particular way. Okay. And it doesn't really have that kind of expansive growth, but it's understanding the thought process, and that thought process can keep a relatively mundane energy, give or take some rises in an emotional presence, but overall, having these types of conversations with the self can be very monotone throughout all of it. So the fact that there's just ever so slightly differences between them, this is actually pretty realistic, which is why I really don't have a problem with him not going, I know, because he's not really conversing with anybody outside of himself. And these types of conversations with the self are pretty similar to this, at least in my experience. So I actually really dig the way that he's approaching this. Minor differences to add a little bit of contrast, but still keeping that very consistent flow. Just having those differences immediately in different registers and just sliding into the stratosphere with, I know. So good, dude. We're listening to that again.
Oh, no, 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 I know, 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 and I know, I know, I know, I know, I know.
Yeah. And maybe not the stratosphere, but just feeling that, I know. Like, just, this is where that real contrast comes in, because the more you sing, I know, it's very easy to become agitated with yourself, especially when you understand what it is that you're trying to process and go through. But in Jonathan Haidt's book of The Righteous Mind, I think he does a superb job explaining how human beings generally experience things, which is we are essentially 10% pragmatism, 90% emotionally driven. Our pragmatism, our critical thinking, our logic is capable of structuring out the path of which we are capable of walking, but we're not going to actually walk down that path until we have the emotional drive, the motivation to do so. And it really looks like in this particular part here, where when you just have those I knows, that's your pragmatic mind, where all of your thoughts come from, just saying, yes, I know that this is how I feel. I know that this is what I'm doing. I know that this is, I know. But the more you say that, it's much easier to feel that frustration the more you say I know, because your emotions just keep screaming at you. And if you know, then why aren't you doing anything about it? Because that emotional drive isn't there. Or it is, but it's directing you in a direction that is outside of the path that your pragmatism has structured for you. You know, it's the metaphor of the rider and the horse, where the horse is going in a direction and you're trying to pull your horse back on the path, but the horse is just saying, no, we're doing this. And the horse is your emotional self. So the more that you just try to say, look, I know that you're experiencing this, horse. Like, I know that this is what I'm feeling. This is what I need to do in order to move forward. I know. Then why aren't you doing anything? And it just becomes so much more frustrating. And it's just so relatable. It just really tugs at my emotional heartstrings, which is why I feel like this piece is so human. It's so real. And it's so good.
I know. Oh, you ought to leave a young thing alone, but ain't no sunshine.
every single shot of him is him leaning on something, using something as a crutch, as a support to just support his weight, because his emotional self is just crippling him. And it's a great touch.
And she's gone.
Oh, those harmonies were excellent.
Only darkness.
Oh, to start on that note, da-da-da-da, but in your chest voice, oh my gosh, and to hit it right in the center of the pitch too, that is incredible skill. My range is nowhere near as expansive as Geoff's is, but to be able to hit that note in your chest voice, right dead center of the pitch, and make it sound lovely. Obviously, there's a little grit in it, but, you know, it's still excellently executed. To execute that kind of note as well as he did, that takes a lot of vocal discipline and training and practice. Just, it's so good, dude.
Yes, every day. Whoa, no sunshine.
Yeah, when you have words that aren't necessarily words, but more just emotions brought out through the voice, vocalized emotion, just doing whoa, whoa. If you're trying to sell a vocalized emotion, it has to be an emotion. You can't just do whoa, whoa. It's gonna have no impact. Whoa, whoa, like the way Geoff did it. Yeah, that's exactly what you need from those kinds of words, because the words aren't contributing any kind of message. It's just a sound. Whoa. So you have to feel something when you speak those kinds of words, and I love that.
Only darkness every day. Whoa, no sunshine when she's gone.
Oh, just going up into that instead of falling back down to the one. Yeah.
House just ain't no home.
Oh, to cut off the vowel there and go right into the consonant, and then just taper that with the fall. Oh, yeah, dude. That's a real emotional tug. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say this, but if you've ever had those experiences where you're just barely on that edge of emotional turmoil, and then all of a sudden that emotional cliff's edge just completely gives out, and you're free falling, but you're free falling slowly into that abyss. Oh my gosh. It's both terrifying yet hauntingly comforting, being completely surrounded by the dark kind of feeling. So to be able to replicate that in your voice, or in this case Geoff's really deep, really chilling tone, it gives that same impression of free falling very slowly into this abyss of emotional turmoil. And it's so haunting, dude.
And this house just ain't no home.
Chills, dude. But to immediately fall back into that anytime, it almost feels as though you're trying to reach out and grab something to save yourself in any capacity, to not just completely submit yourself to your lowest instincts, to not just completely lose yourself in this seemingly perennial abyss, but to rather just say your 10%, your pragmatism is able to structure a path to help you get out of it. So there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, but pursuing that light is extremely arduous in some cases, and you'd have to toil away, and to have that level of discipline to actually follow down that path, to tell your horse directly that we are marching down this path with no exception, is excruciatingly difficult. But in order to extricate yourself from that kind of dark place, just to have some kind of instinctual desire and instinctual drive to actually reach out towards that light instead of just completely give up and fall easily into the abyss, it's very, very difficult. And he does such a great job of portraying this in a way that just allows me to connect with him solely through the music itself. It's quite wonderful. Oh, just the way he's leaning and just feeling that the pull down into darkness is just so powerful, but you still get these really light, higher moments of not completely submitting, but that pull down into the abyss is just so overwhelming. But you know that if you're still here, that means you haven't completely fallen into that abyss. And that takes undeniable strength. Your mindset is strong enough to endure, and if it isn't, then find people that can help you endure. Find people that you can trust and respect, and not use them as a handicap, but ask those people to be your safety net. Only use them if you're just about to completely lose yourself. And because the moment that you actually pull yourself out of the abyss, you can have great confidence in knowing that it was because of your own strength, not because of you leaning on other people, but you gaining a sense of true pride and power in yourself to know that you were able to push through that kind of turmoil, that kind of despair. You just feel that kind of pull in this music, and it's so great.
She goes away.
Just the knocked over glass. Yeah. Just his face, dude. It's just completely drowned in darkness. It's so good. You see it directly through his eyes. Really great stuff. Really dark, but that's the song. But man, very soulful rendition, really great choices. The way it was arranged was excellent. Yeah, I really digged it. It was so good.
Thank y'all so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, please leave a dislike and let me know why in the comments. I do read all of the comments, even if I might not heart a reply to them, so please just know that your comments do not go unnoticed. My live streams are Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so that might change in the future, but I will absolutely let you guys know if that does change. But until then, that's what it is. If you'd like, just stop by, say hey, or ask questions, or pretty much anything. We're just there to have a good time and talk about stuff. And I do leave them up on YouTube, so if you want to check out any of the other ones just to kind of get the vibe of what they are, they're there. I deeply appreciate all of you being here. It really does mean a lot to me, and I can't wait to see all of you in the next video. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone.